Hey everybody, it's Briggsel here, and I've got another 1v1 for you. We have on Pripyat Winter Battlefield, we've got What Doth Life on the Russians against the YoDonkey on the Germans. This, I believe, is a fairly quick battle, so let's get straight into it, shall we? Right, in the left corner, to the west, we have the blue player that is known as YoDonkey. They will start with a pioneer squad and their first building. In the right side we have What Doth Life, another What Doth Life video. He is Russian and he starts in the east of the map. Looks like we'll bring conscripts in to begin with. They take the first point to their northwest, and the Germans will take their first point to the northeast. As more pioneers come in, we'll take this southeasterly point. Cons will move to their first point to the southwest. Yes, they do take it. I thought they may pass there, but they didn't. Pioneers will move on towards this ammunition sector up in here. And the Russians will do the same, it would seem. These 3 points up here could be quite useful. We've got the 2 ammunition points and 1 quite useful fuel point, which could become very useful indeed. Grenadiers on the field for Germans as another con squad comes in for the Russians. No play for the middle just yet. These cons may look like they may be moving towards the middle, but we'll have to wait and see. As does these grenadiers, so there may be a little bit of a fight in the middle here, which I'm expecting because on this map, this is different from the summer version of this map where the points are there in the middle and down here. Whereas on this map, this winter version, they are right in the centre. One is here. One is to the right of this sort of middle sector and one is to the north. First engagement here is between the 2 engineer pioneer squads. The engineers will fall back to get into cover and the pioneers will actually take that point. Very well played there by the pioneers to defend their ground, but they're out in the open and they may get some serious damage against them. The 2 stars are going down for the Russians and the Germans, which means that there could be a bit of a fight in the middle here if we're not careful. But that's the whole point of the game, is it not? MG unit comes in for the Germans and they will most likely position themselves in the middle, maybe even in this outpost. This is the first time you may have seen these outposts. This is technically what is a watchtower. It gives the person who controls it really good view, like a, I think it's a Zelnaga tower in this is Zelnaga. I may be completely misusing that term, but in StarCraft 2 there's those towers which you can take, which gives you a good view range, which is what this tower will do if captured by a team, which is done by the Germans. We'll just move away quickly to watch this fight in the bottom here. Cons against engineers. Those pioneers will run away, unfortunately. HMG is doing a really good job to pin these con squads down as the grenadiers sit on the outpost. But the Russians have got a little bit of a lead going at the moment though, with their 2 stars to the Germans 1. But in all honesty, the Russians are struggling here, it would seem, to begin with. They build their first building though, the support weapons compania, so Companaya, I think is the way you would pronounce that, which will be able to get their mortars and heavy machine guns, and if so, snipers, I believe. No, not snipers. That's the next building. Anyway, more grenadiers come in as the southerly point cons are taking this point. This is another point that's different from some of the maps you've seen before. This is a repair point. Anything that needs repair and you have control of this will be repaired by the facility owners. North Star is going down for the Russians. They will stop the points and move forward for the Germans. They also get their little MG upgrade there. Cons are moving south though. They're taking some of this south flank, getting some ammunition, getting the full set of ammunition, 2 ammunitions and 1 fuel, but they have lost their north kind of flank, and they may need to do something about that. But I think their main focus will be in the centre where the actual points are, where this this engineers and con squad is moving towards. Yeah. MG upgrade for the Grenadiers has come down, and it's going to do some serious damage here, but unfortunately the numbers are on the Russian side, and I think they will have to fall back because this engineer unit is really ripping them apart. We have a mortar squad on the field here, and they will do a little bit of damage towards the squad if they can be accurate enough, which is something that the mortar team on the German side have struggled with, really, is the accuracy, unless the bulletin that is available that you may use for your setup has the accuracy bonus on. I think it's like 3% or something. HMG is engaging these engineers who will retreat, trying to put some mines down there, but they failed. And the Germans are in a bit of a lead at the moment. The Grenadiers will take out this East Star, but the Russians have brought in a mortar team which is hands down better than the German mortar team. It's got that extra 2mm is what you need for power wise, and you've got the better range. Just that little bit of extra range, which is enough. The Germans are losing this bottom sector here as well, which means that they've got a little bit of advantage now. The Russians are slowly moving towards this North Star. But they're losing this north sector here as well, which is quite a difficult position to be in for the Russians. The Germans have got their ability to get their first doctrine. No choice has been made. What Doth Life? He's chosen the shock troop route. I can't remember what the name of the doctrine is, but that should be very useful for him when he wants to bring in those shock troops. What Doth Life has started his second building here, this Tank Avoid Battalion Command. They will bring in probably T-34-76s, I believe, would be the best way to counter what the Germans are doing at the moment, because the Germans have, although they have now built their Panzer Grenadier building, the mechanised company, they bring in scout cars, but I think the best way to counter this would be to bring in some kind of armour like a T-70 or a T-34. What we've got here, we've got an MG unit coming into play as the Germans take back this southerly sector, but the mortar team are in good position here, and the mortars will trade fire, it would seem. Yes, they will, but those engineers may want to get out of that position and get into some kind of cover, because they may burn to death, is what I'm trying to say. That was great. Grenadiers and scout car moving in to help out these Grenadiers, but they could die here if they're not careful. I don't think YoDonkey has noticed that they are suffering from the cold now, as the MG unit comes in and another con squad. Cons may be able to do... The Russians are the same though, they're suffering from the cold, and they may lose some people here to this cold. The HMG unit in the middle sector is doing a really good job of taking out some of this infantry, and the scout cars right in the middle of this fight, taking a little bit of damage here, and the cons may be able to do a little bit more damage if they're not too careful. The mortar squad is down to 1 man now, and they may actually, yeah, I was about to say they may retreat, and in fact they've completely lost the mortar unit, and that is quite a loss for YoDonkey. It is quite a loss. This HMG is technically pinned at the moment, but is still able to fire back at this HMG unit as the scout car comes back to try and deal with this HMG. So the Germans have started to take a little bit of the lead, but they haven't got enough of the territory around to sustain this kind of position. They will have to fall back, most likely, or try and take some of the surrounding points, because otherwise they may start to lose here. Another HMG unit comes into play to engage the scout car. This scout car's not been upgraded with its 20mm cannon, so its damage is kind of limited at the moment, and it's taken quite a few hits. So that's going to be worrying. The Germans do start to take some of these points now, which is very useful. They don't really need to worry about these two middle points here. These two, they don't actually have any value other than to repair their vehicles, which they don't actually. They only have one vehicle on the field at the moment. So the Pioneers will take this fuel sector. Another mortar team will come into play, or the same mortar team that's been reinforced. And I'm thinking, I'm feeling a tank here. I'm actually, must be psychic or something, because they've just literally brought a T-34-76 into play, so that's great. Mortar's doing a little bit of damage there, but this T-34's got nothing to counter it at the moment, and this may be a decisive move for the Russians. We've also got a Russian plane, looks like it's some kind of sentry plane or spy plane that will come in and have a look around. It's doing a decent job there, and the T-34 gets into some action against the two consquads here. Let's just follow the T-34 for a minute. Doing some serious damage, and I can't see the Germans have anything to respond to this T-34. I really don't. And this scout plane is doing a really good job of being able to scout this area so that mortars can drop on those positions. Very, very useful. Con's doing a good job of engaging, but that HMG in the middle here is doing a very decent job of defending this point, but it's not going to last very much longer. The fact that this T-34 is literally pummeling the crap out of it, and there we go, it's down. HMG half-track with Panzerschrecks will do some damage to this T-34. That's a very good move there from the Germans. They packed their half-track with their infantry and pushed them right into where they could do some damage against that T-34. And although they didn't really kill T-34, they did some serious damage. The half-track did take a couple of hits though, and they are really just trying to defend this area now as the Panzer Grenadier is going to move back now. This mortar's being quite useful here and dropping mortars on these positions, but they've brung in another T-70 for the Russians, and this could be the decisive move for the Russians as they try and take these two German stars. We have a little bit of a fight down in the south. Obviously the HMG units did engage the engineers with the Pioneers, but the Pioneers moved straight past them and took this next ammunition point. But I don't think he's really focused on that area at the moment. I think what Doth Life has focused solely on this centre area, and he's going to try and take these two stars and push the momentum in favour of the Russians, which is what exactly is happening. The Germans, unfortunately, have only got 3 infantry units on the field. They do have a mortar half-track coming into play and a Pak 40, but I'm thinking it's too little too late against the Russians at the moment, who have used combined forces for a really good effect here. They've used infantry where they needed to. They've got HMGs in the different places. They've used light tanks, or they will be using light tanks. They've got infantry when they need it, and they've also got a nice little mortar squad that's done quite a little bit of damage there. I mean, it's only technically got 3 infantry kills, and it's got 2 infantry kills and 1 vehicle destroyed, but it's the suppression from this mortar that's done a lot of the damage. But unfortunately, the Germans have nothing really to counter any of this, even though they may bring up this mortar half-track. They can't deal with this T-34 that's coming right at it at the moment. Battle Phase 2 is done for the Germans, but I'm honestly thinking it's too late as the T-70 stops this Pioneer unit from taking this position. And I think this is going to be a final push for YoDonkey to try and take back the momentum that he's lost. And he will push into the centre here with the Panzerschrecks and the Pak 40, but I'm not too sure it's going to do too much. I mean, the Pak 40 has got a good shot off there at the T-34, but I just don't think there's going to be enough here for the Germans. I mean, they will be engaged by the half-track mortar, but on the other side they're going to get engaged by the mortar from the Russian side, so it's going to be a difficult situation for the Germans here. They're going to move under heavy MG fire, and although the tank's not there just yet, it's going to move back in and it's going to do some serious damage. But the mortar's dropped a very nice incendiary bomb there, and it's dropped right on top of the HMG unit, which is a very nice little position. But the mortars on the Russian side have done very similar and dropped the mortars right on top of these infantry units, which is the only infantry units left for the Germans. They've got really nothing else. They've got a Pack 40 and a half-track with a mortar, and that's really it. I mean, a HMG unit is not going to do very much against any of this, especially if they decide to move the T-34 back in, which is exactly what they're doing. And honestly, this, I think, is game over for the Germans. I can almost imagine now that the Germans will GG this and surrender. But we'll just see this last kind of engagement here. T-34 comes in right behind the Pack 40, sorry, and this is curtains for the Germans. Really decent result there for What Doth Life. He's used combined arms excessively well here, and that was game over. So the deciding factor for me was the use of this mortar team. For a start, this mortar team did a really good job of really kind of pinning down the infantry when they tried to move forward in this middle sector. They also brought in the tanks as soon as humanly possible, as far as I was concerned. They did a really good job, and that really pushed it for the Russians to take this victory, even though technically at the moment, if you were to see the score, you definitely think that the Germans were in lead. They were only in the lead because the Russians really hadn't taken the right points. They'd taken the resources rather than the actual victory points. And unfortunately, the Germans had too little too late, unfortunately, and that Pack 40 may have done a little bit of damage, but it didn't do nearly enough, especially when that T-70 came round. Anyway, that's it for this replay. What Doth Life takes it. Very well played. I've got at least another 2 or 3 of these replays coming up for What Doth Life, because he seems to like placing them in the companyofheroes2.org website, and I can only go and get replays of what's there, and at the moment it's What Doth Life, and I'm not going to complain. What Doth Life has played excessively well in a lot of games so far, and hopefully we'll see more of him very soon.